What's good? Santi back with another video, and this one is entitled Semen Retention and the Authentic Self Part 4. And one of the focal points or frame of reference for the authentic self that I've been given in terms of situations is just like being in an intimate relationship, you know. And one of the things to gauge, one way to gauge your authenticity, your authentic self is that, you know, the way in which you approach situations is based on who you are from within and you being in alignment with yourself and you being attuned with yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's reflexive of your inner truth, you know? And so, you know, when going through a breakup and you deciding to walk away and not resist the situation, especially if that person is breaking up with you choosing not to resist the situation and not to fight it and being able to walk away is you maintaining your power in the situation, and you being tapped in with yourself, like you being in tune. Because your ability to walk away from a situation is indicative of how much you know who you are. You know what I'm saying? How connected you are to your inner self. Because you're walking away from a situation that you're choosing not to be defined by. You know, you define yourself based on an inner understanding, you know, instead of allowing that person to define you and be the basis, be the foundation of who you are. Because no person is the foundation of who you are on a soul level. Like the soul is the soul. You know, it's connected to nature and it's connected to creation. So your inner understanding must always be grounded in who you are, you know, who you understand yourself to be, what your preferences are, what works for you, what your boundaries are, you know, and being able to delve deep enough into yourself to not have your preferences be based on biasness or prejudice, but off of experience and a evolved awareness as to what agrees with your soul and what does not, you know. And so your authentic self is capable of much more than what a person says you're capable of. You know what I'm saying? You can be talking to a person and you can tell them ideas that you have, and then they immediately say, they may give you the antithesis of it and be like, oh no, you shouldn't do that, or you can't. You know, you have to go and experience that for yourself. You have to immerse yourself in it so that you can gain what you need to gain and you can see how far you can go, you know? And when it comes to being in a relationship and going through a breakup, it's going to test you, you know? And as you go through that process, you go through that experience of semen retention, you're breaking up with pornography, you're breaking up with masturbation because you have a certain level of attachment to it that is a part of your identity. And so as with the relationship, as a period of time goes on, you have integrated that person that you're with into who you are. That can be a positive or a negative thing because you can either have grown and realize that you're capable of actually achieving the things that you want to achieve with this person and for this person in this relationship, or it can keep you stagnant and you can devolve. You could have developed unnatural ways of being and thinking, you know what I'm saying? And picked up divisive behaviors that are ultimately in disagreement with your soul. And so when you are going through a breakup and you're so caught up in the mind that you're doing, you've got all these scenarios playing in your head as to why this person has broken up with you. Instead of fighting it, you have to sit back and accept it and then allow those answers to come, you know. But when you're in that negative mental space where you're obsessing over it, you're starting to, as you engage more and more in that, you're taking you're weakening your spirit, because that's a conversation that you're having with yourself. You know what I'm saying? And you're essentially either you're building yourself up or you're tearing yourself down. And the power that comes from going through a breakup with anything is you being able to go back to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you being able to get to that place where you separate yourself from the situation. Like when I was going through that breakup, it was hard those first 3 or 4 days. But then after a couple of weeks, especially when I stopped reaching out to her, I stopped texting her, I stopped calling her. I did semen retention for like a month. I was detached. I didn't care about anything. Now that might have had a little bitterness from that situation, but I just directed. I say that came from just her attitude and me just beginning to see her for who she was, but still knowing that I'm going through that process of healing and moving forward. But I messed up where I allowed her back in, and that prolonged my healing process and caused me more pain in the long run, until I got to that point again further down the line where I knew that I needed to cut ties with her, you know. And authentic, when you're in your authenticity, when someone that you know is showing a clear disregard for your boundaries and what you stand for, you address that situation. But then you get to a point where it's like, I have to cut ties with that person. That's what I had to do with my ex at the time. No matter how much I cared about her, when I came to the awareness that she disrespected my manhood, I was done with it. No friendship, no anything. Because you have to realize how you're devaluing yourself and you're undermining your own intelligence and your own soul when you put yourself in a position where you're constantly chasing after a woman because you're trying to get that old feeling back and how things used to be, instead of accepting reality for what it is in that moment and recognizing things are not as they were. And there's something that you're meant to learn, you know. But when you keep chasing them, you keep putting yourself in that position,